Hi. The person I have decided to use as my client is a combination of a person that I actually know and a client that I anticipate I will be working with when I start seeing clients at my Practicum site. My client's name is Mike. He is 43 years old. He is Caucasian. He grew up Baptist. He has two younger brothers. He's the oldest. And he has come to me court mandated because he's on probation for a DWI, or as in some states they call it a DUI. And he is on probation for 18 months. He recently violated his probation because he has a breathalyzer on his car. He has to breathe into it before his car will start up. And he didn't pass the breathalyzer test because apparently he wanted to get some crack, and he had passed out drunk, and when he woke up he completely forgot that he had been drinking, and he went to go get this crack. At least that's what he told me. Anyway, so he had to serve 2 days in jail for violating his probation, and the judge said that if he violated his probation again, he would have to serve 6 months in jail. So he has come to me for drug counseling, and hopefully, aside from the addiction, we can discuss other things. Just to give you a little bit of background on him, he, well, let me put it this way. As I learned in our addiction class, a lot of addiction is based in trauma, and he actually has faced a lot of trauma in his life. He told me at the age of 14 he would be in his bedroom crying because his parents were yelling and screaming and fighting, and he was really upset. Eventually, when he turned 25, they did get divorced because his dad cheated on his mom with a secretary. How cliche. And they got divorced, and his dad married his secretary. Anyway, other trauma that he has faced in his life: when he was 18 years old, his best friend was killed in a drunk driving accident. And also, when he was 25 years old, he impregnated his ex-girlfriend. His ex-girlfriend called him to tell him that she was pregnant, and they had just broken up 2 weeks before. She wanted to get married. He told her, "Look, we just broke up. I'm not going to marry you." So he has twin boys, but he hasn't seen them since they were babies, because right after the babies were born, the twin boys, she married a lawyer and moved to California. And she now lives in Virginia, but she has yet to provide him with the details of her location, and has kept him from seeing the twin boys. The boys are now 17 years old. They'll be 18 in December. And he does pay child support, but he owes arrears in excess of $100,000 because he mostly spent his, he mostly worked at waiting tables, making $2.13 an hour, and then living off of his tips. So he wasn't reporting a lot of income and wasn't able to pay the full child support. So he's got a lot of trauma based on the grief he's faced in dealing with not being able to see his kids. And a couple years ago, his mom, who he considered his best friend growing up, died of cancer. She had melanoma. Anyway, so he didn't go to college. He did graduate high school, but he's spent pretty much all of his adult life using drugs and drinking. He has used pretty much every single drug possible that you can think of, including shooting up heroin. He told me that he almost overdosed on heroin because he had used so much that he passed out on the bathroom floor of this lady's house, and she found him and called 911. The paramedics told him that if he had been found 5 minutes later, he would have been pronounced dead. So, like I said, he's definitely faced a lot of trauma in his life, which it's debatable as to whether or not that caused his drug and alcohol addiction. He also has a seizure disorder. He has a girlfriend of 6 years. They do live together. He was sober when he met her and had been sober for a year and a half. And then a year and a half into the relationship, he relapsed on marijuana and alcohol. So the longest he's been sober is 3 years. When he was sober, he went through the AA program, did his steps with a sponsor, and then started sponsoring other men. So he has had some success in staying sober. So as far as his strengths go, that would be one of his strengths. He's been sober before, so he could get sober again. Currently being on probation, he's drug tested every other month. So he can't smoke marijuana, which is one of the things he likes to do, because if you know anything about marijuana, you know that it stays in your system for 30 days. And he also obviously can't drink because he has to breathe into the breathalyzer before he drives. So anyway, I've been working with him on some of his strengths. I did the strengths assessment with him, and we went through everything. So as far as his living situation, like I said, he lives with his girlfriend. When they met, he was in transitional housing at the Salvation Army. He went through the Salvation Army program, graduated in 9 months, and then lived in the transitional living. After 3 months of them knowing each other, they did start living together. His financial situation is really not that great. Like I said, he owes over $100,000 in back child support. He works at a big grocery store, super center type place, in the produce department. He told me one of his favorite jobs was working at a hotel. He was working as a bellman, and he would make huge tips. He said his biggest tip that he ever got was $150. But he ended up losing the job because he drank on the job. And they told him if he went to rehab that he would get his job back. So we went to rehab for a month at the Salvation Army, and he was sober because you have to be sober there. But he was having seizures every 4 to 5 days. So after a month, they kicked him out of the program because at that point, he'd become a liability. He did get hooked up with the Epilepsy Foundation and was able to, since he didn't have insurance, has been able to go to see the doctor for free and get his medication for free. Getting back to his hotel job, they gave him his job back after 2 months. He worked there for another 7 months, but wasn't able to stay sober. Got caught drinking on the job again, and then they drug tested him and found marijuana in his system. And so he lost his job again. And he went into a huge depression. That was the year that his mom died. Since he was on probation, he couldn't drink or smoke, which are the two main things he likes to do. He's not as into the hardcore drugs anymore. But he was smoking a lot of crack because he was very depressed. And crack only stays in your system for 3 days, so he was able to pass all of his drug tests. He does not like the job he works at currently. He wishes he was back at the hotel. He tried to get a job at a pet store, but he didn't pass the drug test, so they told him come back in 6 months when you're clean and sober. and will offer you a position. As far as support system goes, he has a supportive girlfriend. She's been with him this whole time through all of his ups and downs with the drugs and the drinking and all of his seizures. 1 year he was in the hospital 5 times for his seizures. If you don't know, the drugs and the alcohol can induce the seizures, especially if you're drinking. The medication for the seizures becomes ineffective, and it will cause him to have a seizure. But his support system, since his mom has passed away, is mainly his dad and his girlfriend. He is not currently connected with his girlfriend's family because of all of the drug and alcohol issues he's had. His girlfriend's 2 sisters especially don't want to have anything to do with him. And so whereas he used to have a connection to his girlfriend's family, he doesn't. Actually, he's in contact with the girlfriend's mother, and the dad and one of the brothers, but the 2 sisters of his girlfriend refuse to have anything to do with him. He is in relatively good health aside from the seizures and the addiction that he has. His lab work always comes back pretty good. As far as recreational things go, hobbies, stuff like that, he did play sports in high school, but he currently does not have any hobbies, and all he does is go to work, come home, and then spend time with his girlfriend. He doesn't really have a lot of friends. He would like to get more friends, and his girlfriend has encouraged him to join a basketball league because he really likes to play basketball. He spends most of his time when he's at home with his girlfriend. They enjoy watching sports together. He spends a lot of time with his dog, taking the dog to the dog park, and he and his girlfriend do like to go to the beach, and they bring the dog and play fetch with the dog, and they just really enjoy being out in the outdoors in the sun. There's a pool in their apartment, so they go to the pool a lot. As far as his spirituality goes, like I said before, he went through the 12 steps and he developed a good relationship with his higher power, but he currently does not pray a lot. He does wear a cross on his neck, and sometimes in the session he'll like kiss his cross. So he is spiritual. He used to go to a Baptist church. Like I said, he grew up Baptist, but he does not currently go to a church, although he is looking to find another church to go to. Those are some of the things that we worked with on the strengths assessment. And as far as his personal recovery plan goes, we're working on 3 goals. One goal is to get sober from marijuana and alcohol. He told me this is important to him because he wants to lead a happier and healthier and productive seizure-free life so that he can pursue other goals and interests. I asked him what his goal was, and aside from working at the hotel, he every once in a while he talks about becoming a drug counselor, but obviously he'd have to get sober in order to pursue that. He's a little bit reluctant about going back to school because he only has a high school education, and he has low self-esteem when it comes to studying and being in school. So we're gonna work on keeping him sober. He claims to be sober, but he just had to serve some time in jail, and it's questionable as to whether he truly is sober or if he's just giving me lip service. So that's one of his goals. Another goal is to get visitation rights of his twin boys. Like I said before, he hasn't been able to see them since they were little. They currently live in Virginia, and he told me his girlfriend was going to help him file a motion for visitation rights. but he does have to go to Virginia to do that because he has to file the paperwork in person. He's scared to do that because he doesn't know if his kids actually know that he's the biological father, because he doesn't know what his kid's mom has told them about him. So we're going to work on that. The third goal is getting back to the job situation, is getting a better job, one that he's more passionate about, in order to obtain more happiness and job satisfaction, improve his self-worth. His self-worth is not very high right now because he doesn't really like his job. It's not a very prestigious job, and he's kind of embarrassed to talk about his employment. And he wants to also get a better job to have more financial security. So the first thing we need to do is make sure he stays sober, so that when he goes to apply for the job at the pet store again, that he can pass the drug test. My main issue with him is, I've been doing some motivational interviewing with him, and he acts like he is in the contemplation phase, like he wants to get sober, but then he really doesn't. But I actually think he's more of in the pre-contemplation phase, because he seems to be in some denial about how serious his drug and alcohol condition is, especially being that it induces his seizures, and he's had incidents where he's fallen on his face and had to have stitches on his face and on his chin. And he could possibly die if he falls in the wrong position, so it's very detrimental. And he doesn't seem to see the severity of the situation. I asked him if he would go back to AA. He said he's not interested in doing that. So I guess the feedback that I would like to get is based on, if you're doing motivational interviewing and the client is telling you in their addiction that they are sober, or they have intention of being sober, but your gut feeling is that they're not sober and they have no intention of getting sober, I'm wondering where to go with that. He's mandated by the courts to stay sober, but he's getting off probation soon, and I'm wondering what's going to happen with him, because he'll be able to drink and smoke pot, and it just concerns me. And like I said, I've been doing the motivational interviewing. We did the strengths, we did the personal recovery plan. I'm not really sure what else to do. So I guess the feedback I'm looking for is, if he were your client, if Mike were your client, what are some other alternative things that you think that you might do with this client? Not that I'm trying to fix him, but to encourage him to live a healthier and more productive life. So anyway, that's my case presentation on Mike, and I look forward to hearing everybody's comments and feedback. Thank you.